And good evening to you, and welcome to today's edition of Politics 101. It's Tuesday evening. If you're in Guyana and the Eastern Caribbean, and of course in the eastern part of the United States or Canada, and afternoon if you're on the west coast of the United States, and for those of you further afield in Europe, it's good night. Good night. Good night. Welcome to They're Saying There Is No Sound. I see somebody saying there's no sound. No sound. Wow. I don't understand that. Are you hearing me now? Just no? Still no sound? Okay, okay, okay. You're hearing me now. You're hearing me now. Yes. There is now. There is now. Again, good evening to you and welcome to Politics 101, wherever you're joining us from, whether you're joining us from in Guyana or outside of Guyana. Welcome to Politics 101, all of you Guyanese and non Guyanese. Welcome to our program on a Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening, Tuesday night, wherever you are joining us from. We getting close to Christmas, and we know that's a cultural moment for us. It's a Christian holiday, but it has become cultural. All people of all faith, all ethnicities come together to celebrate Christmas. Of course, it has become uh, very commercial these days. Not the kind of Christmas that we traditionally um, experience, and but we still stay with it because it's Christmas. It's Christmas, and we partake wherever we are. We take the culture with us, and we make merry. Very important time of the year, the season of goodwill, uh, marking the birth of the Christ child who came so that we can be here. We can be here. Welcome to Politics 101. As some of you will know, today happens to be my birthday, and I want to thank all of you who have reached out on Facebook or wherever else to wish me a happy birthday. And I thank you all so much. Birthdays are not always something that I pay attention. When you're born so close to Christmas, when you're poor, you have to make a choice. You're going to give the Christmas present, as we used to say, or you're going to give the birthday present. And so it was always the Christmas present for me. So the birthday wasn't a big deal because by the time you get down to the birthday, it's Christmas. and you start taking down the blinds and emptying out the souvenir and start to wash up. And so my birthday was never that kind of celebration. But just as you get older, you think, and as you've become more public, you can't hide the holiday anymore. So thank you all so much. Thank you all so much for uh, wishing me a wonderful birthday. It was a quiet day, working day. Did what I normally do, which is usually the norm. But as I said, thank you all so much. And I I'm not in my late 70s. I can assure you that, as the Chronicle reporter yesterday asked about us in the WPN in our late 70s. And the only person who in the late 70s who was there was Professor Thomas. And they were referring to people like Dion Abrams and others as late 70s. And, you know, and of course they wanted to know whether I will give up my U.S. citizenship and all that stuff. And perhaps they were shocked. I was looking to see if the Chronicle would carry a big story today. Professor Hines or Dr. Hines is not an American citizen. They take those little children and send them to interfere with people rather than training them to do proper journalism. The thing is that I have never become an American citizen. It never occurred to me. I always knew that I was involved in Guyanese politics and that I can't be involved in Guyanese politics and not be a Guyanese citizen. That was very clear to me. So it never occurred to me to become a citizen. So when a couple of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, around the 2020 election, they discovered that a number of people had dual citizenship and were sitting in parliament, I was laughing because that had nothing to do with me. I morally, even if it were the law, even if the law allowed you to have dual citizenship, I was never going to do that once I was involved in politics and public life. Now, if I were not involved in politics, I may have gone for dual citizenship. So I'm not against dual citizenship at all. All my siblings, they're American citizens, it is just that I made that choice, and it was a political choice and a moral choice. It doesn't have anything to do with law, At the last election, there were members of the coalition who thought also that I was a citizen, and I remember one morning carrying my green card, but I don't think it's green anymore, it's blue now, and my passport, and put it in front of the lady, and said, here, I'm not craving for citizenship. David, a joke, I'll be in a mech, I would not put myself up if I knew I were a dual citizen. I wouldn't do that. But I don't want you all to think that I'm saying something is wrong with people who you live in America, you're paying your taxes here, you're working here, you contribute. Enjoy the benefits of citizenship. Enjoy the benefits of citizenship. If you're not running for office, enjoying the benefit of citizenship in the country that you live and you're working in, But those of us who are in politics, the law doesn't allow that. But again, welcome to Politics 101. Welcome to that. Thank you all. I thank you all for happy birthday. And I am accepting birthday presents, but please send your presents to Politics 101, not to me, to Politics 101. Here's a chance to donate to Politics 101 so that we can keep our programming on air. All this stuff is at the bottom of the screen there. There are a couple of people who I have to thank. I have to thank Dennis, who has contributed. I want to thank Jenny's B. Jenny's B. Jenny's B. Booker. I can take the liberty of calling that last name, Miss Booker, and agree. Thank you very much for your contribution, Dennis. Thank you very much for your donation to Politics 101 in the season of goodwill and sharing with our program. We want to thank you so much for that. Thank you very much, Claude. Claude, who sent his donation. Thank you very much, Claude, for your donation. And some of you who I have thanked before, I thank you again for contributing to Politics 101. Tonight, we want to talk about an issue, and that is the issue of race. We started out there with the mighty Duke. Nationality is not race. Terence Campbell, who is the opposition representative on the National Resource Fund board, recently called out the PPP for drawing money from the resource fund and not accounting for that money, not telling the resource fund how the money is being spent. And Mr. Campbell said that Mr. Jagdeo, who argued, first he argued that it would be difficult to itemize and perhaps not necessary to itemize the monies that are taken out from the Natural Resource Fund. And Mr. Campbell, who knows something about business, and so Jagdeo can't tell him that he don't know, he never run anything. Campbell run more things than Jagdeo will ever dream to run in his life. And so Mr. Campbell said that it is in Jagdeo's DNA to want to have his cake and eat it. So he wants to say that the government is transparent, but at the same time saying the government doesn't have to itemize. So Campbell is saying, and Jagdeo does that all the time. And so Campbell is saying, you want to have your cake and eat it. And it's in Jagdeo's DNA to want to have his cake and eat it. Jagdeo then responded to Campbell and charged Campbell with being racist towards him. He said Campbell was being racist towards him to say that he wants his cake and eat it, to eat it at the same time, and that is in his DNA to do so. Jagdeo says Campbell is racist for saying it is in his DNA. Campbell has since responded, and Campbell has written the ERC. Jagdeo was very pained. He talked about coming from humble circumstances, and these apparently tongue people look down on people like him. And he says a dog whistle. It's racist. Note, Campbell said it is in his DNA. Jagdeo said that is racist. Jagdeo obviously either doesn't know the definition of race, or he knows the definition of race but pretend that he doesn't know. DNA is a biological term. Race is not a biological construct. Race was invented in the mid-1700s in the United States of America as a justification for plantation slavery. Race is a social, economic, and political construct. DNA is a biological construct. Jagdeo, I hope they call you and tell you come to class tonight. Mr. Campbell said that it is in Jagdeo's DNA. Campbell is suggesting that there's something biological about Jagdeo and wanting to eat the cake and have it at the same time. Jagdeo interpret biology to mean race. Race is not biological. My DNA as a black man, in many regards, may be closer to the DNA of white people than it is closer to another black person. A black person born in Germany, his or her DNA may be vastly different from a black person born in Guyana or Trinidad. Human beings, in terms of our DNA, we are more similar than we are different. So race has nothing to do with biology. What people like Jagdeo do is that they biologize race. Clearly, Jagdeo believes race is biology. So when he hear Campbell said DNA, he think it's race. Because in his head, race is biology. Jagdeo, you need to go back to school and take some classes on race and its meaning. Jagdeo, we are now getting an insight. You all always hear me on this program, eh? I always say, I don't know whether Jagdeo is racist because I can't get in his head. I can't know whether he's racist through biology. That is what I mean when I say I can't get in your head. I can't tell whether somebody's racist through biology. What I do know is that Jagdeo sits in a government that engages in policies that are discriminatory towards people of another race. If a lion, as we would say, God strike me down. You all always hear me say in this program, I can't know whether Jagdeo is racist via biology. I can't get in the head because race is not biology. But I know he is presiding over a racist government by the policies, because race is about social, economic, and political policies. But Jagdeo and the PPP, and they're socializing East Indian people in Guyana to believe that race is biology. Jagdeo actually, no, I know, no, I didn't have to go in the head. He said for himself. Terence Campbell said, Jagdeo, it's in your DNA, meaning biologically you're disposed to wanting your cake and eat it. You then charge that man with racism. So you are saying that race is biological. Race is not biological, Barrett. But the fact that you believe race is biological, explain why you engage in policy making that treat black people in a certain way, because you believe that black people are biologically inferior. We now know that you treat black people via your policies in an inferior way. You give them inferior wages. You send the police to kill them. You broke down their houses is inferior treatment. And now that we now learn that you believe race is biology, then you are treating black people inferior because you think biologically they're inferior. You give yourself away, Mr. Jagdeo. I've always, you all know me on this program, I always say I cannot know what's in Jagdeo's head. So I can't call him a racist in that sense. But I know that he presides over racist policies because that is empirical. I can measure that. I can see that. I can see that teachers and public servants who are of a particular race group, they get less wages as a matter of policy than people of other ethnic groups. That is empirical. That is a truth. And I can judge Jagdeo on that. I can't judge what's going on in his head. But I now know, we now know what's going on in his head. He believes race is biological. So he believes, by extension, if you are now engaging in policies that treat black people as inferior, then we can draw the conclusion that you believe they are biologically inferior. I am prepared to go to court and defend. I'm inviting Mr. Jagdeo to sue me so that we can go to court. When Jagdeo sued Freddie Kissoon, Freddie Kissoon called Jagdeo an ideological racist, meaning that his policies, his ideology were driven by racism. Freddie didn't call him a biological racist because biology and race don't go together. Freddie called him an ideological racist, meaning that his policies and his worldview, his economic and political and economic worldview, that's what ideology is. His worldview is driven by the notion of superiority and inferiority based on skin color. And he took Freddie to court. And I appeared as an expert witness for Freddie, meaning I was the witness that took the stand to explain to the court what race is. And I'm qualified to do so because I studied that at the highest level, at the PhD level. And I teach. I've been teaching race for over 30 years. So I am an expert on race. And hence, an expert. Somebody just called me last night, another comrade, who's before the court in Guyana, and is asking me to appear on their behalf as an expert witness on the question of race. And so I am daring Mr. Jagdeo to file a lawsuit and to say David Hines is accusing him of believing in biological racism. And I will go to court. Biology and racism are not the same. And if Terence Campbell said that Jagdeo's DNA means biology, biologically is disposed to wanting his cake and eat it. And Jagdeo accused the man of racism. It means that Jagdeo believes in biological racism. We now know. We now know what drives the PPP's policies and Jagdeo's policies to black people. Is their belief that biologically we are inferior. You know, as we say in Ghana, we catch them. And we catch them. Everybody know DNA is what? A biological term. Race is what? A social, economic, and political term or construct. And if you link DNA and race, then you are creating what we call biological racism, which is a myth. Biological racism is a myth. When Jesse went to the 1932 Olympics, an Olympics that Hitler said was going to prove the superiority of the white race. And Jesse Owens win 4 gold medals, 100, 200, 400 relay. He lengths everybody. When he came back to America, they do all kind of experiment on the body to find out. They say maybe black people got an extra bone. That's why they're running so fast. In the end, they had to come to the conclusion it has nothing to do with biology. Black people run faster on the field of play because it is one of the avenues where the rules are the same. When a white man and a black man start and they'll daggone go bow, the rules are the same. Both of them got to run 100 meters. And the motivation of blacks, whether you're Usain Bolt or you're Jesse Owens or whoever, your motivation to prove to the world that you are equal makes you run fast because you're running for your dear life. It is not that you from bone, your biological, your body. White people body get body just like black people. But the fact that we run faster, we do better at some sports, has to do with social conditions. You go to the Olympics, it's who's the swimmers? White people. You go to any community in America, almost every yard get a swimming pool. White people yard. Black people live in apartment complex. The complex may have a little swimming pool or may have none. They're not motivated to swim. They play basketball. It's the cheapest sport. You live in the hood, you put up 2 rim, and you play your ball. We do better in certain sports, not because we are biologically better than other people, but because we have a social, economic, and political motivation to show the world that when the rules are the same, we beat those who think that they are superior to us. Muhammad Ali couldn't say, I am pretty outside of the ring. But when he got into that boxing ring, with gloves in his hands, he became the supreme political activist. And when they call him Cassius Clay, Bam Bam, what's my name? Bam Bam, what's my name? Badam, Badam, am I not pretty? He turned the boxing ring into a place of contestation with the white society that disrespect him. With a glove on his 2 hands, he became a genius and a political activist in that ring. It had nothing to do with biology. It had nothing to do with biology, Jagdeo. Oscar Bonavina, for the old timers, was a big, strong white man from Argentina. And Muhammad Ali, bam, 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 bust the hell out of him. He's strong more, big and strong more than Ali. So it couldn't be Ali beat him because Ali's stronger. No. Ali beat him because Ali turned the boxing ring into an arena of political, economic, and social. That is an arena of racial contestation. What is race? Race is skin color with meaning. It's white people give meaning to the skin color. Why are you enslaving this skin color? Why are you not enslaving white people like yourself? And the church tell them you cannot enslave white people like yourself because they have souls. And then they ask, why can we then, Mr. Church, enslave people with black skin? And the church answer, they do not have souls. So the church give meaning to this skin color, that we are soulless, which means we are inferior. That is what race is. Jagdeo, race is not DNA. Jagdeo, your DNA and Terence Campbell's DNA must be the same. But the fact that you believe that when the man said DNA, he mean race, is because you, Jagdeo, believe in biological racism, which is a myth. Biology and racism don't go together, except among those who believe that black people are biologically inferior and non-black people are biologically superior. Jagdeo, I want you to sue me. Let us go to court and ventilate what I'm talking about here tonight in court. And that is why Terence Campbell is correct to write to the ERC, because it is Jagdeo who is engaging in racism against Terence. Terence said DNA, biology. Jagdeo said biology means race. It is Jagdeo who is engaging in racism. Martin Carter said, jail me quickly. Jail me quickly. I said to Jagdeo, sue me quickly. Let us go to court and ventilate this. Jagdeo believe in biological racism. That is, he believes that mankind has a hierarchy based on biology. Joseph Knott, in the 19th century, wrote a book called Types of Mankind. He's considered the father of the intellectual father of that argument, that mankind is on a biological hierarchy. He measured skulls, and he said black people's skulls are longer, and he compared their skulls to monkeys, and he said the monkey skull is long, black people's skulls are long, which means that black people are closer to the animal kingdom. That white people's skulls are not as long, they are further away from the animal kingdom. Josiah Knott, Types of Mankind. It was a bestseller. The Department of Treasury in the United States bought hundreds of copies of that book. And that is the school of thought that is driving Jagdeo, the types of mankind. That there's a biological hierarchy. We now know what is driving these people. And I want you all to understand this. I always suspected it, but I had no way of proving it, because I cannot go into a man's head and find out how he feels racially. Because I will have to do like Josiah Not, go in the head, measure your brain, and say, this size of brain is a racist brain, and that size of brain. I can't do that. You all understand why I always say I cannot know whether Jagdeo is a racist or Irfan Ali, because I can't go in the head. You all know, you all understand why I always use that statement. Because if I go in the head, I will have to do like Josiah Not. I will have to say, well, they get small brain or they get big brain, and big brain mean you're racist, small brain mean... no. I can only know racism from the effect of your policies. That is why when Jagdeo called me a racist, I laugh. Because Jagdeo has the power to implement his prejudices. I don't have the power to implement my prejudice. If I don't like Indian people, I don't have the power to take my prejudice and to decide I am not giving Indian people so much wages because I don't like them and prejudice against them. Skin color with meaning. Race is skin color with meaning. And then when you actualize that meaning in policy and laws, you move to racism. Racism is the ideology of racial superiority. Race is skin color with meaning. But then when you actualize that meaning in law and in policies, you move to racism. You move into the ideology of race, racial superiority. So when they call me and Vincent Alexander racist, they have the power to actualize their prejudices. And Jagdeo has just exposed his prejudice. He believes in biological racism, which means he believes in the types of mankind, the hierarchy that mankind is based on a racial hierarchy. Terence Campbell, God bless you. I will have to call Terence, I haven't called him yet, and to thank him because he has done Guyana a good turn. He has pulled out Jagdeo from a crease. Jagdeo is a bright boy. He went to Micah Multilateral School. He went to Moscow and he studied at university. He's a bright boy. He's a bright boy. You all don't deny him that. He's a bright boy. He's not a dummy. So, and Jagdeo can't not know that DNA is a biological term. But then when he take biology and put it on race, it's not brightness that. That is mentality, worldview. You believe in the biologization of race. And that is what is behind the policies of the PPP. So when Jagdeo argues that you can't pay public servants as much as you pay sugar workers, because public servants are productive workers, and public servants are not productive workers, it means you're defining productivity based on race, because it can't be economics. Again, Jagdeo is a bright boy. He went to multilateral school. I went to multilateral school. So I don't, you all think I'm looking down on multilateral. I went to Bladenhall Multilateral. Jagdeo went to multilateral school. He get an education in the time when education was education, not this damaged education that they're presenting now. He went to school during the PNC time. Cause them nasty. But at least education under them, under the PNC, was far more superior than it is under the PPP. Jagdeo went to school. He went to multilateral school and he went to a big university, Patrice Lumumba University in Moscow. Patrice Lumumba was a black leader from the Congos who was assassinated in the 1960s by imperialism. So he's an esteemed black man. And the Russians named a university after him. And Jagdeo went to that university. He got a master's degree. He didn't get a PhD. He got a master's, which is fair enough. So he's a bright boy. He's a bright boy. And he must know that economic thesis about the non-productivity of some workers in relation to other workers is not grounded in economics. It's grounded in the notion of superiority and inferiority. So when Jagdeo cites that thesis, we now know that hierarchy of labor is grounded in its racial hierarchy of human beings. We now know that. Cane cutters don't produce sugar. Cane cutter cut cane. They don't produce sugar directly, they cut cane. A public servant doesn't produce a good, but they run the bureaucracy. They run the bureaucracy that produces and run the state that produces the people who are the scientists or whoever that produces the good. So neither the cane cutter nor the public servant produces a tangible good. Yet Jagdeo is arguing that the cane cutter is a more productive worker than the public servant. Are you hear me tonight? I can't help but teach. The cane cutter cut cane. The cane cutter don't produce sugar directly. The public servant, the teacher doesn't produce the actual product, but she or he teaches, prepares the scientists to produce the actual product. Neither the cane cutter or the public servant produces a product directly. Yet, Jagdeo and the PPP make a differentiation between the two categories of workers. Now we know why they do that. Because they believe the race that runs the bureaucracy is inferior to the race that cuts the cane. The cane cutter is engaging in physical labor. The public servant is engaging, for the most part, in mental labor. Labor, mental or physical. When the cane cutter go home, he skin out them. When the public servant go home, she brain, she there in front of computer all day, she eye, they both have the same experience. Yet, for the PPP, one is superior to the other. And so therefore, they pay one better than the other. These are the people that are governing us. And for you all black people who engage in nonsense, you all must understand that these people are governing us. They do not mean well where black people are concerned. What I'm saying here is what Brother Yusik Wayana had begun to enlighten black people to in the 1960s. They call you all kind of racist. And he was alone. Today, there are many of us. And we were able to expose them in the way that I'm exposing them tonight. The sugar worker, the sugar cane cutter, and the public servant, they are both contributing to the production of wealth indirectly. But without the cane cutter cutting the cane, you cannot get the cane to grind them for make molasses and to get the sugar from the molasses. So the cane cutter is essential and should be paid well. Without the public service worker, how you gonna get your pension when you go? Without the nurse, who gonna patch you up in a cutlass when you cut a cane and a cutlass chop you? And who gonna patch up your wound? A nurse. The nurse, the teacher, the government bureaucrat, and the cane cutter are all essential to production. They're all essential to the generation of wealth. None is better than the other. But Jagdeo and the PPP believe that the cane cutter is better and superior than the teacher and the nurse and the government bureaucrat. And why do they believe that? Because they believe in Josiah Knott's type of mankind, the hierarchy of mankind. And for them, it's not a social hierarchy, it's a biological hierarchy. And the thing about biology, you know, if you're socially disposed to something, you can change. There have been people who were racist and they change. The man who was in charge of the Supreme Court in the United States, that presided over Brown versus Board of Education and all the civil rights cases of that period during the civil rights movement, Earl Warren, the Warren Court. Earl Warren was a Ku Klux Klan. He was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Yet when he got on the Supreme Court, his court presided over the dismantling of racial segregation. So you can change your social disposition, but you can't change your biological disposition. So when Jagdeo talks about DNA is race, he's in effect saying that black people cannot change. Because you can't change biologically. Today I can hear some of you saying that, well, yes, there are transgender people today. You're born a woman and you can change to a man and so on. Yes, you can have medical intervention, but you're still a transgender. You're still transgender, meaning both. So in effect, you change, but you're still in change. Biologically, you can't really change, but socially you can change. So Jagdeo doesn't even believe, let's say black people are indeed inferior. Jagdeo doesn't believe that we can change and we can become equal because he thinks biologically we are there. I don't want to get in trouble, but there's a certain religion that used to have the caste system, which is almost similar to the race system, race and caste. In race studies, we talk about the color caste system. And that religion and caste system holds that if you're born an untouchable, you cannot change. You have to do well in this world and then die, and then you come back. And you could come back as another caste, but you could also come back as a donkey or a cat. So the caste system, like the biological race system, do not believe that people can change. Is Jagdeo a follower of the old caste system of India? And I say old because that caste system is not very much prevalent in India anymore. It was never officially practiced in Guyana because those who came to Guyana themselves were victims of the caste system in India. So that's why I'm saying the old caste system, because the caste system never really was operationalized in Guyana. But it doesn't mean that some people did not encapsulate in their thoughts the ideology of the caste system. Is Jagdeo a follower of the old caste system? How else can this man hear somebody say DNA? Jagdeo got to know DNA is biology. He's a bright boy. Yes, he's an economist, but all we in school had to do all them subjects. So he had to have done biology, and he must know DNA is a biological term. And you were accusing a man who tell you about your DNA. You're accusing the man of racism. You obviously must believe that race and biology is the same thing. Jagdeo, why you sue me? Let me go to court. So we have now established what is behind the thinking. Sisters and brothers, comrades, what we see in day-to-day politics is what is called the text, what is called the finished product. What we don't see all the time is the thinking behind the finished product. We see the differentiation in wages. We see the attempt to dispossess African people of their lands, their ancestral lands. We see the gunning down of predominantly African boys. We see the criminalization of mainly African boys. That is the text. The subtext is, what is the thinking behind that? Indian boys do the same thing like black boys. You get Indian thief man, you get black thief man. You get Indian criminal, you get black criminal. You get Indian bad boys, you get black bad boys. Black boy play the music loud on the car, Indian boy play them. Why, when the police go to shoot up, it's only black boys getting shoot up? What is the thinking behind that? Now, Jagdeo didn't create that. So Jagdeo, don't say David Hines accusing you of doing that. That was created during the colonial time. Slavery ended in 1838, and they formed the police force in 1839. The police force was formed to police black people. That is why today, policing, the negativity of policing is directed most of black, because the origin of excessive police force comes in the relationship between the rest of the society and black people. Jagdeo has not condemned that system. The PPP has not dismantled that system. Which means that they are not necessarily opposed to the system. They are prepared to use that anti-black notion of state force to keep themselves in power. Most of these black people would just be shooting down them black boy. Every now and again you get an Indian between them. So it's not the race of the person who's doing the shooting. It is a system. Woman hold her head and cry, for her son has been shot down in the street. All because of the system. Brother Bob Marley, 1973. Johnny was a good boy. Woman hold her head and cry, for her son has been shot down by a stray bullet. Can a woman's tender care cease towards the child she bear? Indian women cry for their children, but not because of police shooting them down on the streets like dog. Every cow cry for calf, but every man a kiss his wife different, because our circumstances are different. Race as an ideology has created hierarchies of mankind, types of mankind that Josiah not said. And Jagdeo obviously has contributed to that. God bless Terence. God bless Terence. You all send this program to me. God bless him. He has pulled Jagdeo out of his crease. And Jagdeo has exposed what is in his head. Thomas Jefferson, one of the brilliant founding fathers of America. Brilliant, bright boy. He wrote those words in the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal. 1776. But in 1781, he writes a little book called Notes on the State of Virginia. And he argues in that book that Native Indians can be civilized because they are brown people. They're white people in brown skins. And they could be civilized. But African people, he said, he believed that they're inferior in body and mind. And he said, I am not sure that they could be civilized, but I leave it to science. He set science a task. And science answered. Josiah not. Samuel Morton. They answered his call. And they took skulls and measured them. That was a science, the eugenic science of the 19th century. And they answered Thomas Jefferson. Thomas, you are right. Black people cannot be civilized because they're biologically inferior. And that finding by Josiah Nutt and the other scientists of the 19th century became the justification for the 1857 ruling in the Dred Scott case and the Jim Crow laws that followed emancipation in 1865. It was Jefferson theorizing, the scientists proving the theorists right, and then the politicians taking what the scientists say is true and creating laws and policies. Let me repeat that. Jefferson theorized about Black inferiority. Science proved Jefferson right. And the politicians and others took the truth of science and created laws and policies out of it. Jagdeo is the theorist of modern biological racism in Guyana. Because he accepts that the concept of DNA, a biological concept, is the basis for racism. He said it. He accused Terence Campbell of using DNA to get at him racially. So he accepts the thesis that race is a biological concept. Amen. 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 You all know why we got our work cut out. I do not want to live under biological races. I do not want to live, and you should not want to live, under a government that is guided by the thesis of biological racism. If you all were not convinced about the need to remove these guys from office, tonight you all ought to be convinced. I hope that I know I ain't talk over nobody head. I do not believe that there are certain things we got to break down for ordinary people because they can't understand. You can't talk over there. That is shit. All we bright people just do is use some big words. But often people who are not certified like us, their thought process is as sharp as ours. And so they can understand when we talk about certain things. We have work to do. And we must not stop because we are governed by biological and social races. What they've done is biologize a social concept, and it is dangerous. It is dangerous. When you merge biology with race, it is dangerous. Because once you believe that a group is inferior and you put biology to it, you're saying that they will be inferior forever. No change. No change. At least the caste system, they believe that when you're born, you could have come back. You're born a Dalit, an untouchable, and you could have come back as a Chatri. At least they believe that. Jagdeo don't believe that. Thank you all so much for wishing me happy birthday. I take a drink tonight for the birthday, but also take a drink for Terence Campbell. For what he did. It's a master stroke. It's a master stroke. Thank you all again for keeping our program going and for giving me the opportunity for another year to contribute in a small way to keeping our struggle going. I always say that those of us who managed to go to school because we got some opportunity that others didn't have, what we learn should not be just our property. It should be the property of those who have made the sacrifices so that we could get the opportunity. And that is why they're so afraid of us. Coming here every evening and learning, teaching, and mobilizing our people. Again, thank you all for giving me this opportunity another year. Thanks for all the birthday wishes. A barn, I didn't drop from coconut tree. A barn, just know you all know that. A barn. We didn't drop from coconut tree. I mean, I drop from coconut tree. I mean, barn. And my neighbor still buried some way at Batham Station there in Boxing. I love you all. If you all are into the gift or present giving, make a present to Politics 101 or the WP. Politics 101 or the WP. I'm going to make sure that they get the donation. Thank you all very much. I'll see you all tomorrow evening, tomorrow night, when we come again to put fire in their backside.